My main man, Kevin Gillespie. How you doing, brother?
Man, if I was any better, I'd need a twin. I'm doing good.
So, and I've heard the lovely Mrs. Gillespie would not be opposed to that. It's just what I've heard. But hey, we're gonna probably X that out. But hey, I thought what we'd talk about today is a topic. There's two ways to make a lot of money in this business, or I'm sure there's more than two ways, but for me, there's been two major ways. One way is to get my own production up, which you definitely help, branch managers and district managers, things like that, do that. And then the other way is to bring on, new or at least new to the branch manager, new talent as far as loan officers or recruiting. And so I thought what we'd do today is let's do an episode on just recruiting and but I think everybody can benefit for this because number one, those that want to recruit will learn how to do it. And frankly, those that get recruiting calls might have some better questions that they can ask and things to compare to. Sound good enough?
Sounds great. Sounds great. In fact, the perfect timing because we just finished a workshop upgrading all our recruiting process. And man, we got some great ideas. But there's a real basic thing going through that process I learned
Tell
that
me.
for years, and it's that's really what we'll talk about today is, I think that for most managers, they think, well, I want to recruit, I want to get folks in the what they're trying to do is, hey, come here and work, man. You'll like it here, right? And, they'll lead with the company brand or, the comp plan or whatever, but they're not getting the conversion. And the truth is, our top recruiters, and we got some great ones in the leadership group, um, they've realized that one, recruiting isn't about just hiring somebody, which for years I think I approached it that way.
Yeah, same here.
But the truth is it's really about helping someone create a better future for themselves. And I don't know
Mhm.
that most people in recruiting approach it that way. One recruiting I think is we think, well, it's like going out and getting a real estate agent to refer you business. And no, recruiting is a lot harder than getting an agent,
Yeah. Oh, for
because an
sure.
agent,
Yeah, getting somebody to give me referrals pretty darn easy when done the right way. Get somebody to change jobs. I know for me, when I changed companies, which I've done it, what, once, twice. I'm on my third,
yeah.
my third one, which I've been with now for 12 years. But yeah, changing where you hang your license, it's a big deal.
Well, you think about it in I think it's even bigger than I thought for sure. And I really came to realize that in the last 60 days is you think about it, a referral partner, they're not taking a huge risk. I'm going to give you a referral. I'm going to give you a try, right? I'm going to give you a try. Yeah, let's try this. Man, you're asking a recruit to bet their income, their future, their
Mhm.
family security,
Mhm.
right? Their past business, their reputation. Um, it's not a transaction, it's a life decision when you're recruiting.
Mhm.
And the problem is, even if you've got a great company, which a lot of the people listening will, and you've got some good systems and some good stuff to offer, man, you really got to remove that fear. You gotta, because I think a recruit. Tell me if this makes sense. I think we all know. Yeah, they want to make more money. Not necessarily. And I'm not talking bips. I'm talking a bigger paycheck,
Yeah.
and that's sure. But they also want to do it with less grind, right?
Yeah.
Without sacrificing more to get there and have a better quality of lifestyle. And I want your tools, if I were to join you, to in strategies that give me a real competitive edge. So you got to be able to present that to them. So you're going to get more money, less grind, and you're going to have a better competitive edge. And you got a support team that cares about your loans as much as you do. And and if you don't approach it that way and really create your recruiting funnel, your process to do that, you're really just out there asking people to come to work for you and get a job, and it's not going to get you who you want or the right people or the volume. Is that making sense so far?
It does. So, what would you say, like in this leadership group that you run, where y'all focused on recruiting here the last quarter? What did you find? Like, how did they make most of the time? How'd they make the initial contact? And what was the typically, what is the most common carrot that you see? In other words, like when somebody answers that call, text, or ad, which you're getting ready to tell us, what's kind of the opening message?
Well, it's interesting. It's shifted, I think, in the last couple of years. Used to be calls worked great,
Okay.
but now with social media or whatever, we're finding creating awareness first,
Mm,
and we've come up with, and we've broken it down to kind of 10 steps or 9 steps or whatever the number is. That once you figure out who you want and why you want them, and more importantly who you don't want, that's kind of the first step, right?
yeah. Mm.
Then where do you find them? And we came up with a bunch of ways to find them and a couple of new ones that I don't think many people are using. But once you find them, let's say you find them and you got, there they are. That if you can create a brand awareness, and we use what we call the first and 10 approach on social media, so that in first and 10 really is kind of should be 1 and 10. It just goes with the football first and 10.
I get it. I
But
get it. I get
but
it.
and so if they will spend, you don't have to spend a fortune, you don't have to spend a ton of time, but there's 3 steps to it. If they will create a where they spend the first, or the one is 1 hour a week creating some content and then leveraging that to multiple platforms. And that takes you about an hour a week or less. And then the other is to go in and comment, and you're not trying to sell them, you're not trying to recruit him. I'm going into Facebook and I'm saying, hey, Carl, man, that's so cool. You went to Switzerland. I haven't gone yet, but I'd love, you make a sincere comment. And what we find is the social media platforms, then when you're doing those couple of things, start to connect you guys together, and then they become aware of who you are. Because
Mm.
most of these people were call, if you're just calling them, they have no idea who you are. So creating that brand awareness and doing proper with your copywriting, there's a little bit of skill to it. It's not real hard, but you gotta. That's what we're finding now is the first step, so that when you do reach out to them, or
They
you
know who
see
you
them
are.
out and about at a meeting, they go, "Hey, Carl, I've been seeing your stuff all the time. I feel like
Mhm.
I know you."
So basically, what you're talking about is kind of a, I don't know if this is the right word, a pre-indoctrination where I'm sold on you before I have that first conversation. It's like I'm just there thinking like I'm going to go see a concert and I'm going to go see, I don't know, insert in person like Maroon Five. I'm a Maroon
Okay.
Five, so I'm getting ready to go see Maroon Five. Well, I'm already even if I've never been to one of their shows before, I'm pre-sold it's going to be a great concert because I know their music and I know what they're like, and I've never seen them in concert, I've never been in concert, but I'm really looking forward to having a great time because I've already predetermined this is a good fit for me entertainment wise. And so it's kind of the same thing what I'm hearing you say is using social media to pre-indoctrinate, not
100%.
manipulate, but like let them know who you are.
They
Uh,
create a little bit of an interest and an awareness of who you are, so you're not a
mhm.
stranger. Because I truly believe people still go to work for people, right?
Yeah.
And if you're
Probably
just
more so than
calling,
ever, by the way. Probably more so than
yeah,
ever. Yeah.
yeah, and we hear even our managers, they'll tell me, yeah, I get recruiting calls every day, and it's
Mm.
just ridiculous what some of these calls, and it's usually they're calling and saying, well, hey, we'll pay you more bips.
Right, right. Mhm.
That's not going to move the needle for you,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
It kind of goes into that thing that I'm sure our listeners have frequently heard me say, Oprah can't make a cold call. right? Because everybody knows who Oprah is.
Yeah.
So if Oprah was to give you a call someday, I don't care who you are, you're probably going to take that call because you go, oh, dude, it's Oprah calling me. And so to make yourself the Oprah, so to speak, on social media, does that take a long time? Like when you're uh, sending out these, and again, I don't know if that's the right word, but we'll stick with it. The pre-indoctrination messages, like on social media, is that something you have to do for a year or two, or 6 months, or 3 months, or a
I
day
think
or two?
I think it depends on the person, but the quality of your messaging. For some people, it'll be 30 days. I'd say probably on average, 60 to 90 will at least get you a little bit of recognition if you do it
Yeah.
right.
Hmm.
And but there'll be some. How many people that do we have come into coaching? They go, man, I've been listening to you guys for years. I've been listening to Carl forever,
Hmm.
right? But they never call. So there's
Forever and ever and ever. Carl, my grandfather introduced me to you.
yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So
So step one, I guess pre-indoctrinate, or get
yeah,
your.
yeah, build that awareness, that brand, with some interesting stuff that
Hey, I
they
got a
start
question
to
for you.
see you're a little different.
Let's say I work for ABC Mortgage,
Okay.
and I'm looking for loan officers to come work with me into ABC Mortgage. So when I'm sending out these warm and fuzzy messages to give awareness, do I make it from branch manager Carl White that I'm pre-indoctrinating them to, or do I do it to ABC Mortgage? In other words, am I kind of letting them get to know me as a person, or do I brand it toward my company?
I think you want to do both.
Mm,
And a lot of times, I think the same mistakes made with social media with loan officers, right? The company's branding the company, but they never include the individual LO within that market. And
mhm,
who I'm
mhm.
really going to do business with is that person. But same
Yeah,
thing. I want to go to, so if I'm going to go to work for somebody, right? If Carl's going to be the manager, man, I want to get to know him
I couldn't
as
agree with you more.
well as what systems do you have to help me convert more business, as
Yeah.
well as how am I going to differentiate myself in the market? How am I going to become more valuable in the marketplace because of your systems?
Mhm.
And so yeah, I think the more you can include, the better off you are. What do you think?
I think you're right. I think it's the individual because and I'm not going to mention any names, but let's pick some big company, and we all know some big companies, right?
Mhm.
So in the big companies, heck, they're big enough that maybe this branch manager stinks, and this branch manager is like the best one ever. And so, and as far as I always think of my favorite real estate agents, you know, Lisa is my favorite real estate agent. Not that she works at Remax or Century 21 or insert in company. To me, it's always about the person. And so cool. All right.
Yeah.
So pre-indoctrination. Uh,
Yeah.
what's another point?
Well, another one is the overall objective, which I don't think most managers, and again, I'm including myself for years, is
Yeah.
we were more about ourselves. We didn't focus on how do I create certainty with that
Mm,
individual we're recruiting and remove the fear. Because in
mm,
their head, you can say whatever you want, but in their head, there's, well, what if that doesn't work? What if I lose business? What if I make the wrong move? So you really got to get them in your presentation that your system, your process, that it's going to work, and it's going to work with a very high degree of certainty.
I like that. Maria and I were just talking. Me and the Love Miss White, literally just this morning, I posed a question to her, honey. If they offered you a seat on the next space capsule to go around the moon or land on the moon, would you go? And she said, absolutely not. I said, how come? She goes, I might not come back. And so what you're saying is, and I think most people, not all people, but most people would fall in that boat. But I bet if I asked her the question, and by the way, you're guaranteed to come back, your certainty for it to be a success, well, who wouldn't go?
Yeah, exactly.
So, mhm.
Yeah.
Hey there. Hey, if you're loving the tips so far, be sure to hit that subscribe button right down there and then tap the little bell so that you never miss out on more free, cool tips coming your way. Also, I would love to hear from you. Drop a comment beneath there. Let me know what you think or tell me what you'd like to hear next.
And
How
so
do you how do
that
you
would
convey
be
that? How do I convey that certainty?
that's really kind of one of the key things we learned is think about this. Again, we tend to meet with a recruit, right? Well, here's what we got. We got this tool. We got this great product. We got this. You really need to have a plan. And your plan has to be flexible enough to meet that person at where they're at. So, in other
Mhm.
words, a plan and a playbook that if I'm fairly new or only been doing or maybe I've been doing it a couple of years, but I only am doing a couple loans a month, the average LO.
Yeah.
What's the step to get me to 7 to 10? And what do I need to learn and experience and grow with? And what do I need to do? And then what do I need to do to go to the next level? In the
Mhm.
next level, or maybe even become their own brand. But we've mapped out a couple of levels, right? Well, it seems like you're here. Here's what we would show you. And what's really interesting, the people who are presenting a plan, the loan officers they're recruiting. One of our guys, Tom, he had not done a lot with recruiting, and he started developing and putting this plan in front of people. He's hired like 5 LOs because they go, "Oh my God, this makes sense." Because everybody else is saying, "Yeah, come work here. We have this for you." Well, that's a job. A plan is, here's where you're going to take me.
Yeah.
That, that
Mhm.
that that helps create that certainty, I think.
Mhm. Mhm. All right, I like that.
Yeah,
So,
it's a proven process. It's a step by step. Here's how we onboard you. Here's how we get you to the next level. Once you get, it's like getting your black belt, right? You're gonna,
yeah, give me a give
depending
me
on
a,
where you're at, we're gonna take you to that next level step by step. But it's not gonna be overwhelming because also if you throw too much at them,
yeah.
I don't know that I can handle all that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Oftentimes I find what they're actually looking for is something very, very simple sometimes. And sometimes in the past, I'd find myself throwing the kitchen sink at them, everything, including the kitchen sink, and come to find out all they were looking for is this like, I'll give you, so like real estate agents, dude, early in my career, I had this value add thing, which I think is important, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I think I had it all wrong when I found out probably 8 out of 10 of them, they just want you to literally close on time and give them good communication. I didn't have to, like, I
Yeah,
could have left my suitcase of goodies back at the room, so to speak. That what they actually wanted was something very, very simple. And sometimes trying to throw the kitchen sink at recruits, which I've done that in the past.
yeah,
Uh,
me too.
all they want is a couple little simple things, and
Yeah,
and and dude, about half the time it's just respect, you know.
yeah,
I know because I talk to loan officers all day long. I cannot tell you how many say, dude, I just want to be able to talk to the underwriter anytime I want to, and somehow they put the underwriter on a throne, so to speak. Whereas if it wasn't for the loan officer, hell, you wouldn't need a underwriter, processor, or closer, or
I'll
anybody else.
I'll throw another one. Yeah, having that team you're talking about that cares about your loan as much as you do as a loan
Yeah,
officer, right?
yeah.
Here's the other one. How many times have you heard? I've heard this one 1,000. Well, I'm talking to you because I've got a branch manager. They do nothing for me. They're only
Mm-hmm.
interested in their own business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm part of a team. I don't feel like I'm almost an interruption to the manager, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, having a team, a plan, a group that'll take, those couple of things take care of me. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need a lot.
So I'm going to
But I got two
pre-indoctrinate.
others that were kind of eye-opening.
All right.
Really,
So
we knew, but we didn't.
I'm going to pre-indoctrinate. I'm going to convey certainty. What's the next one?
I'll tell you. Well, the plan. You got to have the plan,
Okay.
and how you because the plan creates the
Okay.
certainty, right? It
Yep.
it
Yep.
removes the fear, right?
Here's what's next. Okay.
But if you're going to give them a plan,
Tell me.
you also got to get them to commit to following the plan. You know,
Mm,
you can't go to work at McDonald's and do Burger King stuff. You can't join any other company, an airline or whatever, and do the another airline. And that's the challenge. A lot of people come in and all they know is their own bad habits. And how
mhm.
many times have we heard managers go, "Well, I've hired these people and they're just not making their calls. They're just not doing this." Well, the truth is, they were so excited about giving somebody a try and bringing them in,
Mhm.
they never, I don't know that I'm saying it well, but they never got the person to commit, yes, I'm going to do what it takes.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
It does. Gosh, I've always found the best way to do that is to find people who's already doing what it takes, instead of turning over a new leaf, so to speak. Even though, I mean, I've turned over a new leaf probably twice in my life, so it's not that it's not done, but yeah, and the other thing about like following the plan and doing it is that you make yourself more attractive to get more offers from different companies, like we all know, like and I love him, man. That so the guy that owns a company that I work with, I'm not gonna. I think everybody knows who he is, but I'm not gonna. Like I'll get some of our top producers and interview him here on the podcast, and he says, Carl, every time you do that, they get like 100 calls, from recruiters. He said, you know, let's do some other topics for a little bit, kind of, and he's just kidding with me, right? You know what?
No, but it's,
He just,
yeah, I'm
he's
sure
just
it's true.
kidding with me, but the point I'm trying to convey is, get more business, you get more offers, and frankly, getting more offers is never a bad thing. I've always thought, you know, like when I get recruiting calls, because I get people call me, I don't take them all, right? Because as with most people, there's so
Yeah.
many. But every now and then I do take the call because, heck, if nothing else, I see what sticking my head in the sand is never a good thing. And frankly, seeing what if company B is offering this thing, I go, huh, that's a great idea. So I'll call up Owen and say, Owen, this company's doing that. And he goes, man, that's a great idea. Let's do it. So if nothing else, I get ideas. So anyway,
100%. But having the plan, getting them to commit to the plan, but also within that, again, you don't want to overwhelm them.
yeah.
You got to make the plan so the steps are kind of,
Hmm.
lack of a better term, baby steps, that it's
Yeah.
achievable. And hey, we're gonna show you how to implement this plan and make it easy, because you'll lose them if they think they're
Small,
good.
small,
Again, I'm
small,
not improving my quality of life if it's harder and it's a
yeah.
grind kind of
Small
thing.
bites, not the whole elephant.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
then there's,
So
okay, I got one more for you.
give it to me.
This, I think, is one of the biggest things we do, and this makes perfect sense. One of our managers brought it up. Is you got to create some exclusivity and some urgency to it, because we often, when we're recruiting, oh yeah, yeah, we'd love to have you on. Yeah, we'd love. Hey, come on over whenever you want. Well, think about it.
Mhm.
If you're going over to name a company for an engineering job, for even a sales job, a pharmaceutical, whatever, they got one or two of those openings. And what we have a tendency in the industry to do is to present things as if, hey, you come over whenever you want. We're here, we're wide open. Well, there's no urgency. You're going to be much better off if that plan, that message in this marketplace, we got one or two openings and it's limited and we're selective about it. And because people like to be chosen and selected, right? As a group, to be exclusive. But I got news for you. If you don't take it, that's okay. We've got other people we're talking to, and maybe it'll open up again in the future.
Mhm.
But you got to create a little bit of, here's the opportunity.
Mhm.
Don't miss out on this. Does,
Mhm.
does that?
Yeah, it does. I think that the challenge to doing that is it can't be a perceived scarcity. It's got to be a real scarcity. it's got to be maybe and I'm just thinking out loud here. It seems like it'd have to be, hey, we're getting ready to start a 6 month program where we're teaching our loan officers how to close more loans with with less time, kind of thing. And we're starting it, you know, next month on the 10th.
Yeah.
So it had to, because I think people can sense. I know I can when somebody's giving me a false scarcity. It's like, yeah, right.
Yeah, I get that.
So it has. I think I like that though. Robert Cialdini talks about exclusivity and scarcity. That it's the FOMO thing. It's a real
It's
thing. Hmm.
it really is. And so
Hmm.
uh, the good news is, and guys, if you'll do that, your recruiting will improve. We've got several people. We got one of our people in leadership. They just in the last 90 days have brought on 18 people. Tom, the small branch that I mentioned earlier, I think he's brought on 5 or 6 now. And so, yeah, you can do it, but getting the right ones, you got to have a plan. You got to know where to find them and then attract them to you. And then the way you present that plan and wow them is really different. And so that's it. If anybody wants to find out more, we'll be happy to share some ideas with them and, um, you know, help you put your recruiting plan together.
And the
I hope
scarcity.
that's helpful.
Well, and the scarcity that we're going to inject in here is you are getting ready to start another group where y'all are talking about recruiting.
Yep.
And if you do miss out on that, you're really going to be missing out. What's the best way for somebody to get information about that?
Go to profitdrivenplan.com. Again, profitdrivenplan.com. And yeah, well, no pressure, but man, just a great conversation on ideas that'll help you grow.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Hey, if you're a loan officer and you're talking to a company about making a move, kind of a different subject, but kind of the same thing.
Same thing, yeah.
What's the one question that you want to make sure that you ask? And I know there's more than one, but what's one
Wow.
question to make sure that you ask?
There's a half dozen of them. But obviously, what's your plan? How do I
Mhm.
improve my life? Right, just all the things we talked about. How do I improve my life
How do I have
without
certainty?
with
Hmm.
certainty, without running myself into the ground? So and I make more money. Um, Obviously, what are the tools and systems?
Yeah.
Turn times, fallout. I'll tell you one that if I'm the loan officer,
Tell me.
what's your turnover been?
Mm.
Longevity of a company is a great
Indicator. Hmm.
indicator that man, this is working. Like you've been at your place forever, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
I'd say forever, but for a long time, right? And you and I know that the
That's because
turnover rate.
he knows something about me that had if I was going to make a joke, but I can't think of
But
one.
no, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's a good. So that'd probably be one
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, longevity is a very good clue. You and I, right before we hit the record button, we were talking about a friend of ours that we know that not part of your group, by the way, that his stick rate of his loan officers has been atrocious. Like, and he's a great guy, but
Yeah,
I think he lacked some of these things, that you went over, and the longevity is a killer. So that's a great question to ask if you're talking to another company. What percentage of loan officers that you've hired are still with you 12 months later?
yeah.
Kind of thing.
Or at least of your top half. How long have they been with you? Kind of thing. That's
Hmm.
gonna because there's always going to be some turnover.
Yeah, I get it. What's
Or
what would be a number that like if they say what number would they say that would give you pause, or what number would they say that you go, wow, this sounds really interesting?
what number makes it
Yeah, so
sound like?
like if I ask them, hey, what's your turnover rate? What's
Oh, okay.
what's acceptable?
If they said, if they said, well, it's low. We've lost some folks, but we also made some bad hires. That's a reasonable answer.
Sure.
But I'll tell you one. I've got one group, and they've got a large number of loan officers. Their average person has been with them like 9.5 years.
That's impressive.
And now there's also a challenge to it because they got to get some new blood. Right?
Right? No, I get it.
But
I get it. But that's impressive.
but that it's really impressive. There are not many companies that can do that. And so the longer that number is, I
Hmm.
think the better off you are.
Hmm. Good stuff, man. Hey, what was that? What was that website again?
Profitdrivenplan.com.
And what happened when I go to profit driven plan? What happens?
You just schedule. I think it's a 20-minute appointment or 30-minute appointment, just to
A calendar
brainstorm
pops
on this
up
stuff and
and
to tell you some of the things we do and what are your goals and objectives.
cool. All right, man. That sounds good. Anything I should ask you
Yep.
that I didn't?
No, you already asked me more than I was prepared for.
All right. I appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you, friend. Always good.